We've all been there, that looming deadline that seems to creep up on us no matter how much we try to ignore it. That project we keep pushing aside, telling ourselves we'll get to it tomorrow, or the next day, or maybe even next week. Procrastination, the art of delaying tasks, affects us all. It's that nagging feeling in the back of our minds, the one we try to silence with distractions. It's a universal human experience, a tug-of-war between what we should do and what we feel like doing. The battle between our responsibilities and our desires. But why do we succumb to procrastination's allure? What is it about putting things off that seems so appealing, even when we know the consequences? Why do we trade immediate gratification for future stress? The answer lies in our brain's wiring and our natural inclination to seek pleasure and avoid discomfort. Understanding the root of this habit is the first step toward lasting change. By recognizing the triggers and patterns, we can start to address the underlying issues. We often view procrastination as a lack of willpower, a flaw in our character. But it's more complex than that. However, science reveals a different story. Research shows that procrastination is linked to our brain's response to stress and discomfort. Procrastination is not a moral failing, but a deeply ingrained response to discomfort. It's our brain's way of protecting us from perceived threats. Our brains, wired for survival, instinctively seek pleasure and avoid pain. This survival mechanism, while useful in many situations, can lead to procrastination when it comes to tasks we find challenging or unpleasant. When faced with a challenging or unpleasant task, our brain, seeking to protect us, often opts for the easier path: procrastination. This is a natural response, but one that can be managed with awareness and strategies. This delay, though temporarily relieving, often leads to increased stress and guilt later on. By understanding this cycle, we can begin to break free from procrastination's grip and take control of our time and tasks. To truly understand procrastination, we need to delve into the science of motivation. It's a complex interplay of our brain's chemistry, our environment, and our personal habits. Our brain operates on a principle known as the activation energy threshold. This is the minimum amount of energy required to start a task. Think of it as the spark needed to ignite a fire. Just as a rocket requires a massive burst of energy to overcome gravity's pull, our brains need a significant push to initiate action. This initial push can often feel daunting, making it easier to delay or avoid the task altogether. Procrastination thrives in the space between intention and action. It's in this gap that our minds wander, and we find ourselves distracted by more immediate, less demanding activities. We intend to work on that presentation, write that article, or start that workout routine. These intentions are clear in our minds, yet the follow-through is where we falter. Or start that workout routine, but the activation energy required feels overwhelming. This feeling of being overwhelmed can paralyze us, making the task seem insurmountable. But the activation energy required feels overwhelming. Our brains, wired to seek comfort and avoid pain, often convince us to postpone the task in favor of something more immediately gratifying. Our brains, seeking the path of least resistance, convince us to choose easier, instantly gratifying activities instead. This is why we often find ourselves scrolling through social media or watching TV instead of tackling our to-do list. This is where the danger of inertia comes into play. Inertia, in a psychological sense, is the resistance to change. The longer we stay inactive, the harder it becomes to break free from this state. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. This principle from physics applies to our behavior as well. When we remain inactive, our tendency is to continue being inactive. Similarly, a mind accustomed to procrastination finds it increasingly difficult to break free from this cycle. The more we procrastinate, the more ingrained this habit becomes, making it a vicious cycle that's hard to escape. The longer we delay, the more formidable the task appears, and the higher the activation energy needed to begin. This can create a snowball effect where the task grows in our minds, making it seem even more daunting. This is why starting is often the hardest part. The initial step requires the most effort, but once we take that step, the subsequent actions become easier. The good news is, once we overcome that initial resistance, momentum builds, making it easier to continue. Just like a snowball rolling down a hill, our actions gain momentum, and we find it easier to keep going. Procrastination isn't solely a matter of willpower or laziness, it's deeply intertwined with our emotions. Our emotional state can significantly influence our ability to start and complete tasks. When we procrastinate, it's often because we're trying to avoid negative emotions associated with the task. When facing a daunting task, we might experience fear of failure, anxiety about the unknown, or even a sense of being overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of what lies ahead. These emotions can paralyze us, making it difficult to take the first step. Alternatively, we might feel boredom with the perceived monotony of the task at hand. This lack of interest can sap our motivation, leading us to put off the task in favor of more stimulating activities. Instead of confronting these uncomfortable emotions, we tend to avoid them. This avoidance can manifest in various ways, such as distracting ourselves with other activities or convincing ourselves that we'll feel more ready to tackle the task later. Procrastination becomes a coping mechanism, providing temporary relief from these negative feelings. In the short term, this might make us feel better, but it doesn't address the root cause of our procrastination. However, this avoidance only strengthens the association between the task and negative emotions, making it even harder to face in the future. The more we procrastinate, the more daunting the task becomes, creating a vicious cycle of avoidance and anxiety. The key to overcoming procrastination lies in reframing our relationship with these emotions. By understanding that these feelings are a natural part of the process, we can begin to approach tasks with a more positive mindset. Instead of viewing them as roadblocks, we can choose to see them as signals. These emotions can provide valuable insights into our fears, desires, and areas where we need to grow. Fear can indicate a challenge worth pursuing, a sign that we're stepping out of our comfort zone and pushing our boundaries. While anxiety might highlight areas where we need more preparation, it can also serve as a reminder to break the task into smaller, more manageable steps. By addressing our emotions head-on, we can transform procrastination into productivity. One of the most effective ways to combat procrastination is to leverage the power of small wins. When we break down large, overwhelming tasks into smaller, more manageable steps, we lower the activation energy required to begin. Each small win, no matter how seemingly insignificant, triggers a release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with motivation and reward. This dopamine surge creates a positive feedback loop, making us more likely to repeat the behavior that led to the reward. Taking action. Instead of focusing on completing the entire project, focus on completing the first step, then the next, and the next. Each step completed, no matter how small, fuels our motivation, propelling us forward. Imagine embarking on a journey without a destination in mind. You might wander aimlessly, making little progress towards any specific location. Goal setting acts as our compass, providing direction and clarity in our journey to overcome procrastination. When we set clear, specific, and achievable goals, we provide our brains with a target to aim for. This clarity reduces feelings of overwhelm and provides a sense of purpose, making it easier to stay motivated. The key is to break down large goals into smaller, more manageable milestones. Just as a map helps us navigate a complex route, breaking down our goals into smaller steps makes the journey feel less daunting. Effective time management is crucial in the battle against procrastination. When we structure our day and allocate specific time slots for our tasks, we create a framework that minimizes distractions and maximizes productivity. Techniques like the Pomodoro technique, where we alternate between focused work sessions and short breaks, can be incredibly effective. This structured approach helps maintain focus and prevents burnout. Another powerful technique is time boxing. Instead of saying, "I'll work on this until it's done," we allocate a specific amount of time for a task. This creates a sense of urgency and encourages us to work more efficiently within the given time frame. Our mindset plays a significant role in our ability to overcome procrastination. Individuals with a fixed mindset believe that their abilities are innate and unchangeable. They tend to avoid challenges, fearing failure and judgment. On the other hand, individuals with a growth mindset view challenges as opportunities for growth and learning. They embrace setbacks, viewing them as stepping stones on the path to success. Cultivating a growth mindset involves reframing our internal dialogue. Instead of saying, "I'm not good at this," we can say, "I'm not good at this yet." This simple shift in perspective can make a world of difference in our willingness to start and persevere. One of the biggest obstacles to overcoming procrastination is the pursuit of perfection. We often delay starting a task because we fear it won't be good enough, or we wait for the perfect time to begin. The truth is, there's no such thing as perfect. Striving for perfection often leads to paralysis by analysis, where we overthink and overplan. but never actually take action. Embracing imperfection means accepting that mistakes are an inevitable part of the process. It means giving ourselves permission to start before we feel ready and to learn and improve along the way. Your journey starts now. Overcoming procrastination is not about achieving overnight transformation. It's about taking small, consistent steps in the right direction. Start by identifying one task you've been putting off. Break it down into smaller steps. Set a timer for 25 minutes and focus solely on that task. Celebrate each small win. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The time for action is now. Don't wait for the perfect moment or for motivation to strike. Start small, stay consistent, and embrace the power of progress. Your future self will thank you.